righty, joining us now, if you know Cleveland sports, you know him, the new host of the brand new Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on into the Sports Parlor, Adam the Bull. Adam, what is going on? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I got to get used to being on camera.
Dude.
It's still weird. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. So, yeah, we were talking about it a little bit here right before the show, right before we started recording. How have the first couple of shows gone? What's that been like for you? The big switch from radio to TV now.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's a lot of fun. It is an adjustment to have to care about what I'm wearing. I'm actually putting on makeup.
How's that?
Where
do you got to stop for the makeup? Is that a Target stop? Is that an Ulta stop?
I went to Ulta.
Okay. Yeah. I got a girlfriend.
I would never have known that.
Yeah.
But I said to my wife, where do I go? So I went to Ulta, and I walk up to one of the women that are working there, and I'm like, I got to get some powder to put on my head. I think that's makeup. I don't know what it is. So now I keep it at the station, at the TV station. I got my little makeup and... I don't know. I think it's still on. I never really took it off.
All right, cool. Well, we'll switch some gears because I know people want to hear you talk some baseball. You're obviously a huge Tribe guy, now Guardians guy.
Yeah.
The big news, the elephant in the room, is this Jose Ramirez contract stuff. First, I want to know where you were when that broke, because it did surprise me. I was surprised personally that they were able to get that done. And now this new story with his agent saying that, hey, he could have got a whole lot more money elsewhere, but he decided, you, Adam, to stay put here in Cleveland because it's where he was comfortable.
I love that Jose stayed. I thought the agent's comments were ridiculous. And for once, as a Indians/Guardians fan, you can buy a jersey of a player, and you're not worried. Jay mentioned today on the show, he's like, because I was saying that I'd like to see the Guardians, because their lineup's been great. I mean, it's been a huge surprise. Maybe the biggest one of the biggest surprises in baseball the first month and change of the season has been how good their lineup has been. They're number one in the American League in runs per game. They're number two in baseball in runs per game. I mean, who would have guessed that?
Imagine telling somebody that a month ago.
Never, right? And their starting rotation's been disappointing. Bieber's been okay. Plesac's been up and down. Savali's been terrible. McKenzie's been really good. But overall, their rotation's been disappointing. And I thought if they had any chance to be a 500, it would have to be carried by the rotation. And it's been the opposite. The rotation's been average at best. And the lineup's been fantastic, and so that's been great. It's been really promising. But I was saying that they needed to, at some point, I do think they're going to need to add to the lineup and bring a veteran. I mentioned not that they're going to trade for this guy, but I said how nice would it be if they had like an Anthony Rizzo in the middle of the lineup, that type of player, guy who could be like a leader, has playoff experience,
a legitimate bat.
A legitimate bat, legitimate first baseman power. That they're short on power, right? They got a lot of good contact bats, a lot of singles, doubles hitters. But so I was, I think they will, and at some point they're going to need to add. And Jay was like, "Isn't it nice that when we get to the trade deadline, we don't have to worry about any Jose Ramirez trade rumors?"
Yeah,
and that is really great because with every good player the team has had, you're always worried. Even with Shane Bieber, it's like, could they trade him if they're bad?
Especially just like history repeats itself, man. And Guardians fans are allowed to be jaded in that way. You look at recent memory, you lose Kluber via trade, you lose Clevenger, you lose Lindor, all those dudes that we held on to because of the 2016 title run. And then it was like, man, a blink of an eye, they're all gone. So at least Jose's here. And like you guys were saying, man, it'll be nice that the trade deadline could come and go. Hopefully the Guardians are buyers. I know. Who knows with this minority ownership and how much they're going to be looking to spend and that whole conversation of how much they can add. But
I've heard good. Listen, the minority owner, whose name is escaping me,
Blitzer.
I can't think of his name. Blitzer. Thank you. Is it David? Is that
I think it's David.
But Blitzer's right. I think you're definitely right about Blitzer. Good job out of you. It's not official yet, but I have heard from pretty reliable people that once it becomes official, that they will be able to raise the payroll. Now, the payroll shouldn't be where it is. It's a joke.
Right.
Nobody's asking them to have, the Yankees payroll, but you got to at least have $100 million. at least.
Yeah.
No team should have under $100 million payroll. That's ridiculous. And think about how good, how good they could be if they just had $100 million, let alone 125, 130, which they did, 2017.
Right.
So the payroll number right now is ridiculous, because they're going to need to add a bat. Some of these young guys are going to cool off, but much credit to Chris Faleka, the new hitting coach. And these guys have had a really good approach at the plate. They're looking to make contact and put the ball in play. And when you could spray the ball around and good things happen, and they're getting on base and they're turning over the lineup, and everybody's taking that same approach. I mentioned today on the show, if you look at Franmil Reyes, who's like the one guy that's not really in that mold, Naylor kind of too, but Franmil's like, he's a slugger, right? And he's going to go through slumps. And he was having a terrible slump. And how did he get out of his slump? He started going opposite field, trying to make contact, shortened up his swing. He didn't hit home runs to get out of his slump. He had 8 straight singles. So he even took that approach that some of these other guys have. But some of these young guys, Kwan and Miller, they've done a fantastic job, and they've been fun.
It has been. It's been fun, and it felt like that was like a trigger word for me during the Cavs season, because it felt like we were just throwing that out too much. Like, oh, the Cavs are fun, the Cavs are fun. It became too much, but there is a little bit of Cavs in this Guardians team where when the young bats are rolling, it's worth tuning in. We saw that last night with the Josh Naylor fireworks. So that's good stuff there.
Hopefully it's the Cavs that we saw for like the first 60% of the season and not the last 40%.
Yeah.
When the injuries piled up.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, right. No, not play-in Cavs, but early pre-All-Star Cavs. All right, we'll switch some gears here. NFL schedule drops this week, and I wanted some of your thoughts on this. The opponents are out, but the order isn't out. Do you care one way or another about the NFL schedule release? And do you have a preference of who you want the Browns to play week 1? Because for me personally, I feel like the NFL, maybe besides 2019 when we had all the hype, they never throw us a bone with the first game of the year. It's always one of the toughest games of the year. Right out of the gate. I wish this year, let us start against the Jets. Let us start against one of these really down teams so we could get our footing with or without Deshaun Watson and kind of use that throughout the regular season. But what are your thoughts as far as
I feel the opposite. I kind of like playing a good team right away. It creates some excitement early in the season. I understand what you're saying, and I think I'm in the minority opinion. I think most fans would agree with you on that, and I get that. I just love seeing a big game. I like the early test of where we're at. Now, because we don't know Deshaun Watson's status and he can potentially be suspended, if Deshaun Watson gets suspended 4 games, 6 games, something like that, then I might change my mind and say, well, hopefully it's a bunch of bad teams early in the year. But in the end, you never know who's going to be bad, right? Last year we thought the Bengals were going to be bad. I thought the Bengals were going to be bad, and they go to the Super Bowl. So you never know, right? What if Zach Wilson all of a sudden is
Joe Burrow. Yeah.
Right? I mean, not that it happens every year, but you never know from year to year who's going to be good and bad. I mean, you could have, some teams it's a little easier to guess if they have a really bad quarterback situation, but I'm more interested because we don't know Watson's status. I like the schedule release. I always think it's fun to kind of play the dopey schedule game.
Yeah, I like it too.
So I enjoy that. And I like to see, what the primetime matchups will be and things like that. But I don't get too caught up usually in what the first game is. But I do lean towards a good opponent.
Are you a big primetime game now guy? Because I know that there's an argument there to be made as well where, okay, like I don't like the primetime games. They run too late. Sometimes you're not in bed, especially in the working media world, until 1:30 in the morning after some of those games. Are you more of a Sundays at 1 kind of guy?
No, I love when the Browns play primetime games.
We're together on that, yeah.
Okay, but here's the reason. I don't know if if you feel this reason, but are you a big fantasy football player?
Oh yeah.
So because I love fantasy football, I'd rather 1:00 be able to bounce around from game to game and see my fantasy players and all that stuff. Because when the Browns are on, I'm fully focused on the Browns. I'm not changing the channel. And so I like when they play night games because then there's no competition. I don't have to worry about fantasy players on other teams. So selfishly, from a fantasy football perspective, I understand why some fans don't like it because, if you have to get up at 6:00 in the morning and you got a job, you got to go get up early, I get it that you would not want too many primetime games. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how many the Browns have.
What do you think your number is on that? Would you have to, if you had to guess, because they got Watson now and Amari Cooper,
yeah, right.
so there is some intrigue. There will be intrigue.
No doubt. It's tough. Like, I would have thought before they traded for Watson, I was like, well, the Browns got a bunch last year, but because they had a bad season and Baker's not a sexy story anymore, I don't think they'll have as many this year. But then they trade for Watson, but the TV networks have to think, well, like every TV network is thinking, well, we don't want to put the Browns on if Deshaun Watson's not playing. We don't want Jacoby Brissett on Sunday Night Football.
Primetime Jacoby.
Yeah, right. So I think it's tricky for the network. So my guess is that the Browns will be maybe on more primetime games later in the season with people kind of maybe hedging, thinking he's going to get suspended for 4 to 6 games. That would be. I'll say the Browns are on 3 primetime games.
That's fair, yeah. And I do think that they'll probably fall in the latter part of the season, and maybe it'll be an indicator, man. Say week 1 or week 2 they're in primetime. Maybe that's Roger or the TV stations, kind of in cahoots, tipping their cap that maybe a suspension ain't happening this year until these civil cases are done. Yeah,
it's possible. I mean, I keep saying I think the league doesn't want this hanging over it,
right?
But the problem is if you suspend him for 4 games and then he loses the civil cases, well, then the league looks bad, and vice versa, right? Like, what if he's vindicated? It's all made up, and they suspended him for 8 games or all season?
Yep.
Then they look terrible, and they it was unfair.
Yeah.
Plus so it's going to be interesting to see what they do here, but
I think that's going to be a waiting game. I really do. I think he's going to start week 1 because they don't want to make that decision. They don't want to get caught in no man's land where he goes in and gets sued 22 times and we only suspended the guy 4 games where it should have been a whole year long, like the old Josh Gordon days, war in the inverse. He beats all 22 and we suspended him for 8. And it's like, oh God, the guy's in. He was free to walk. So
that makes it really tricky. The only thing that stinks about if they wait is it's constantly hanging over his head. It's constantly hanging over the Browns fans' heads and the Browns. So in a way, if they're going to suspend them, you'd rather it just happen now and let's get through it. But time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. And Roger Goodell is always looking to make a controversial suspension. It seems you never know one way or another how he's gonna weigh on this, and he's gonna have the final say.
Jay Crawford thinks that the Bauer suspension in baseball is going to factor in here. I don't agree, but
I don't agree with that either. The gesture doesn't dictate what the king does. The NFL is a different animal. They don't care. They want their best players on the field. They don't care.
I don't think they're worried about what baseball's doing.
No, me neither. You mentioned him. I will finish it here. What a poetic way to finish this, because I've told Phil when he's on a zillion times, I'm so sick of this topic. Baker Mayfield. How do we get rid of him? When's this end? I feel bad for the guy. I got to put it out there, Bull. I do. He is a human being that wants to get on with his career, and right now he can't. He is the 4th string quarterback as it looks right now.
It's a bizarre situation. I don't feel bad for him only because I think he helped put himself in this situation, because he just should have stayed quiet in the offseason. I know it's easy for me to say. People are knocking you, whatever, but it would have been best for him if he had stayed quiet. I think if he had not said anything this offseason, he probably would have been traded already. I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
But I think that probably turned off some teams that are like, well, if he doesn't win the job here, what's he going to be like in the locker room? So I don't know. I mean, the reports are that the Browns are unwilling to eat any of the money, which just doesn't make any sense.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Nobody's paying his full salary. By the way, I'll never forget years ago when we had Phil Taylor in studio, and this is one of the largest human beings I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, imagine him next to me.
I know, you don't look very big. I mean, he's just a monster. Yeah. What does he think of the Baker situation?
He thinks that it's maddening. He kind of goes back and forth. So Phil believed before the draft that there was still trade value there. And that's what he was like going in. He was like, he could say whatever he wants. Like, teams have seen the good Baker and somebody will take the bait on that. Obviously that didn't come to fruition because we're still stuck with them. So his thing now as a former player, Phil wants to see this get resolved.
Yeah, it's got to be
ASAP. Yeah, because
the problem with Baker is he's in that mid tier of the listen, he played very well at the end of 2020. We know that.
Yep.
But over the course of 4 years, I believe, and I think a lot of people believe, he's shown himself to be just a decent NFL quarterback. And the problem in this NFL, where quarterbacks are more important than ever, where it feels like you can't win unless you have a great quarterback, especially in the AFC, where you have Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Mahomes and Herbert and Allen and Russell Wilson, that Baker's just not going to cut it. So now you got Deshaun Watson. Okay, you look at these teams that he's been connected to. If you're Carolina or you're Seattle, like, is Baker better than who you have? Sure, he's better than the guys they have, but is it enough of a difference that he's going to make you a playoff contender? Probably not. Yeah. Seattle's not going to the playoffs whether they have Baker or not. Will they win more games with Baker than Drew Lock? Probably. Will it be enough to make them good or Carolina good? Probably not. So ultimately, these teams are like, yeah, we'd be better with Baker, but not that much. So what's the point?
Yeah, and that was my argument towards Phil. I was like, man, if you're Carolina, if you're Matt Rule, who is a Baylor guy just like Phil, I was like, you probably realize that the clock is ticking on your NFL lifespan, where you only have so many more games to put out of this is what I am as a head coach. Would you rather do that with Baker, or would you rather do that with Sam Darnold and XFL PJ Walker? I would probably rather do that with Baker and just really put my neck on the line with the guy to see what he could give me.
Yeah, but obviously, now they went to the draft, right?
Yeah.
So
it's going to be interesting. I think it's a big game of chess too, because like you said, with these reports that the Browns aren't going to eat any of the money, I would love to know what that's all about, because
it's weird.
You're going to have to eat all the money if you just outright cut them. He signed the dotted line where that's a guarantee. So I would rather eat 10, 11, 12 million of that and at least get something back.
And at least be able to pick where he goes. I mean, not that I care. Some people are like, well, what if he goes to Pittsburgh? I'm like, well, I didn't think he was that good, so who cares? Let him go to Pittsburgh.
That's what Phil said, too, about him going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, there are teams that would be interested at the right price, but at almost 20 million, even though that's not a ton for a quarterback, I just don't buy that anybody's going to pay him that full amount. So I don't know what the Browns are going to do. It's crazy, but... And now we're at a weird, like, the only kind of downtime in the NFL calendar.
Yep.
You're seeing like the last of the veteran free agents trickling in, but it's going to be strange. I know the other day Jay said he thought there's a chance that if Watson got suspended, that Baker might still play for the Browns, and I just think he's crazy.
Yeah,
that's happened.
That's bizarre. I can't see a way where Baker walks through that door in Berea again. Baker doesn't want it. Kevin Stefanski doesn't want it. Andrew Berry doesn't want it. Watson doesn't want it. The receivers don't want it. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
If anything, they J.R. Smith him, like what kind of happened at the end of his tenure here is just, hey, stay home kind of thing.
And then maybe Baker could go back to college, join the golf team, and have a 4.0 GPA.
I think that we saw what Tom Brady is getting now in this broadcasting realm of a 10-year contract with Fox. If Baker ever wants to step away from the NFL, college football, I'm sure would have a spot for a personality.
He'd probably be good, because he's probably I'll give him credit, he's probably one of the few athletes that would be honest. Most of the former athletes are scared to criticize. He probably wouldn't be. He'd probably be actually, he's decent in those commercials. He'd probably be actually decent on TV.
Yeah, you put him on College Game Day and just let him roll.
Especially for college, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Big 12 games.
Good stuff, Adam. I know you guys are going to be keeping track of the Guardians throughout this entire summer, keeping track of the Browns and their schedule as it releases, as well as this Baker Mayfield saga, which is ongoing as always. Tell people where they could find you guys on YouTube and go get in on what you're doing with the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Yeah, it's the brand new Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, weekdays, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Although, like I said before, we've gone long both shows. Went to 11:18 the first day, 11:05 I think we went to today. Or excuse me, 1:18, 1:05. You can see us on YouTube. You can watch it live. We stream live starting at 11, but then you could watch it back whenever you want. It's always on YouTube. You can watch the whole show, or you can watch it in different segments. They're all separated. There's also a podcast version of the show if you just want to listen to the audio of it. Apple and iTunes, all those places.
People like that too. I think you're going to be surprised. People like that because then they could just toss it on in the car or, while they're taking their kids to practice, whatever. You just toss it on.
All the options are there. Jay Crawford, myself, and Garrett Bush will be on every day. Brad Sellers will be on Monday and Friday. This week he's on Wednesday and Friday. Tyvis Powell will be on every Wednesday. This week he was on Monday. And Mike Polk will be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tomorrow's show, or when is this airing?
This is going to come out Thursday. So okay. First thing Thursday morning.
Yeah. So tomorrow's show will already pass. But guests coming up in the next couple of weeks: Joe Thomas, The Miz,
huge,
Maurice Claret, Aditi Kinkabwala. That's all I can think of right now. DeQuell Jackson's going to be on Friday. In fact, Tim Couch is going to be on with us every Monday, and DeQuell Jackson's going to be on with us every Friday. So,
huge.
And we had Bernie already, and we had Showtime Sean Porter, so a lot of good stuff.
Great stuff, man. Best of luck with it. I can't wait to keep watching it. Like you said, I'm a young guy. The fact that it's on YouTube for me is just beautiful. Everybody's going to go check it out. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Thanks, Bull.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Alrighty, that was a blast. Huge thanks to Adam the Bull for hanging out with us on the Sports Parlor Podcast. That was a super fun interview to catch up with him and everything that he's up to with the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Go make sure to check him out. Always, though, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Parlor on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to betJACK on YouTube, and you will be able to keep up with us and what we're talking about on this show all the time. Next week, Phil Taylor will be back with me in studio. You better believe we'll be breaking down the Cleveland Browns schedule, so much more on the Sports Parlor Podcast. We will see you guys next week.